I've been a parent for a few years now, figured out a few things. One thing I've figured out is that, as a general rule, you should probably assume that most people don't give a shit about your kid. So you got to pick and choose your moments when you talk about your child. I think you get a pass when the baby first comes out, when it's fresh off the rack, if you will, because that's one interesting thing. People give a shit about the dimensions, the height and weight, which was very surprising to me. When a baby comes out, you know someone is expecting that's in your life. For me, I want to know, is everything all right with the baby? Is everything all right with the mother? That's pretty much it in terms of like, I can't even quantify like how big is a baby meant to be. Like, oh, 12 pounds. You got a 12 pounder. That's a big one. It's like I don't fucking know. It's all you go back to the in a place like Australia, we use the metric system, but then for some reason with when you're fucking weighing babies, you go back to the imperial method. Very complicated. And I don't give a shit. I'm not stepping into the ring. It's not Logan Paul and Dylan Dennis with the two newborns. I'll take your second born on with my firstborn. They're about to get punched out from fucking wombs on Thursday. Let's set them up in an incubator and let's let them go at it. That never happens. So it's one interesting thing. People give a shit about the height and the weight. And yeah, most of them look like weirdo little fucking smushed face aliens when they first come out, but you got to get the pics out and it's a wonderful moment, yada, yada, yada. So that's fine. But beyond that, think about who else is in the world. There are the childless people who maybe hate children. There's been some prominent people in the indie alt writing community who can't stand children. So you definitely don't want to put your put your child smush a photo of your face in front of those people's faces. You don't want to put your child in front of people who are maybe trying to have a kid but failing, which is getting more and more common as women try and punch them out into their 30s and 40s. I'm going to say smush and punch him out multiple times in this episode. I can feel it. I can feel it in my bones. Um, so yeah, there's two sets of people. And then people who already have children, they probably are too busy worrying about their children to give a shit about your kid. Like, for example, here's another thing I've learned while I'm here, while I'm on the pulpit. Um, I've understand a lot more about first child privilege now that I've had a kid and a bunch of my friends have had children and a bunch of my friends have had multiple children, because with the first kid that comes along, it's interesting because you're like, oh yeah, you kind of do the face analysis thing. You're like, oh yeah, bit of the dad, bit of the mum. And then you see them a couple of years later and you get to see how they are as parents. So the first time someone becomes a parent, it's somewhat interesting because it's the novelty factor. The second time around, by definition, it's going to be the variation of a theme, right? It's going to be the same thing. If it's the same sex, if it's like another boy, then it's like it's literally the same fucking thing. So it by default, I think the whole kind of like first child privilege thing is within the family for sure. But then it's also like this weird external thing where other people give less a shit about the younger kids because they're like, yeah, been there, done that. If you're an aunt or an uncle or a family friend, you're like, yeah, you're just like the older one. And I don't really have the energy to have as much interest as you in you compared to the older sibling. So you don't want to talk to people about your kids to other parents because they're busy with their own fucking kids. So I feel like yeah, that's a weird thing because sometimes you are just like gushing and incredibly proud or in love with your own child and just being like, things are going great. You're having one of those like warm and fuzzy moments as being a parent. But then I try and keep it in most of the time because I'm like, yeah, who am I going to tell? And maybe that's a part of the kind of weird joy of having a family is that or breeding specifically. You don't necessarily have to be in a family, but you see the next generation, you're like, oh, this is cool because it's like a private thing. That there is, if you're a good parent, you spend a lot of time with your child, and you're like, I can't. It would be impossible for me to explain the depth of feeling I have for this child and the relationship that we have. So you're kind of doing a disservice if you even attempt it. So anyway, I'm definitely not one of those people that could ever be a fucking teacher or work in a childcare because I think kids are all right. They're the future, baby. But yeah, I definitely prefer mine compared to everyone else's. Does that make me a bad person? I'm not too sure. All right, catch you on the next one.